Hello and welcome to Off-Grid Solitude. My name is Joe and I am building an off-grid homestead. And today I'd like to talk to you about this foundation which I just started. Now I've made some choices with the design of this that some of you might find outrageous. But all my choices are because number one, I'm building this all solo, single-handedly. And number two, I'm very limited on funds. So those two limitations pretty much shape any decision I make. As a quick recap, I've leveled a pad, and as you can see, the ground is nice and level. It's been sitting for about 6 months or so the ground is already stabilized. Now that the pad is finished, it's time to move on to the foundation. Now the first thing you'll notice is I didn't do any trenching. The soil is very firm around here. It's a sandy gravel. So once it's settled in, it's very stable. And I've designed my slab here to be wide enough to support the building. And there's really no frost line around here. It just doesn't get that cold for that long. The county recommends going down 12 inches, which is probably a good idea. So what I'm going to do is backfill after everything is finished. I did trenching from my shed, and it was very difficult to get the trench level. But when I work on top of the surface here, it's very easy to level everything out. I also decided to pour it in sections. If I ordered a concrete truck to deliver wet concrete, I can't work a 30 by 30 footer by myself, and I can't really afford to hire a crew or hire the job out. But a few cold joints won't be a disaster. It happens. They didn't pour the Hoover Dam or the Empire State Building in a single pour either. I got some experience doing the footer on my shed. And the best way is to put some mortar on that seam before pouring a new section. And it comes out great if the rebar is positioned properly. If the concrete does crack, it'll probably crack someplace else rather than on that seam. As for rebar, I chose 2 lines of 3/8 inch rebar. With my soil and the size of my footer, I think some people wouldn't even bother with the rebar. I see some ruins around here and the foundations are holding together just fine. I've seen other people use a single line of 1/2 inch rebar. So I figure a double line of 3/8 inch will be fine. It's just there to hold the pieces together if it does crack. For my forms, I'm using 3/4 inch OSB. On my shed, I practiced with 1/2 inch OSB, and that just didn't hold up very well. The concrete was just too heavy for it, and it bowed out. I have rebar stakes pounded into the ground every 4 feet, and as you can see, I've poured the first section, and the form held out fine. I figure since I'm only pouring a section of concrete at a time, I only need a section of form at a time. So I bought 1 sheet of plywood, which cuts up to make 2 8-foot sections, and it's working fine. I marked my first 2 corners and pulled a string to get a straight line. And once I get one side done, I can use another string for a straight line, as well as measuring the diagonal to make sure my place is square. I level each section at a time. If each section is level, the whole side will be level, and eventually the whole form will be level, and eventually the whole footer will be level. But I'm not too worried about it because I think in a few years the whole thing will settle and get out of level anyway. I had to get the hang of my mixer. The instructions recommend putting the water in first, then slowly adding the concrete. But I'm not really strong enough to hold an 80-pound bag up for that long. I do have to use a shovel to get to any dry spots, but it's still easier than hand mixing. The bag of Quikrete gives a recipe for how much water to use, which seemed a little dry, but they said that's maximum strength. It kind of looks like a cinder block if you ask me. It doesn't really matter what it looks like as long as it's strong. This is all going underground anyway. It's just a footer. Well, that's all I have so far. It'll take me a few weeks to finish the whole foundation. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I look forward to all your comments. And I'll see you in the next video.